here we are wanting to introduce the equivalent, the plant equivalent of the cane toad into our environment deliberately.
It's not going to save the world. It's not going to feed the starving millions.
It is our responsibility for our children's sake to look at this. I've understood the problem with this for 10 years, and I've been fighting against it for 10 years. And it's so hard and so expensive to fight. We've got to the end, 16 more days. We're told by dear Mr. Brumby that we're going to lift the ban to start the contamination of Australia, and I don't know what else to do. So to try and draw attention, I've gone hungry. The only reason I'm doing it, to try and make people think. I don't know what else to do. In the passport, Federico Rossignoli. I'm known as Fred the Snake Man. I work with snakes. I do snake safety, biodiversity lectures in school. Just an ordinary common bloke who plays with snakes. Today, when they're putting fish genes in vegetables, for example, and now they're suggesting putting human genes in rice to give us vitamins that we can't live without, well, that is genetic engineering. And in the past, plants that were of one type, they would only breed with that type. That was it. They crossbreed only with their own species. Now, with genetic engineering, they're putting two species together and making the offspring fertile. So you can put the human genes in a tomato and have the tomatoes keep breeding tomatoes that are all carrying human in them. That is genetic engineering, and that's where it's really not true when people say that we've been doing that for thousands of years. We have not. I can't tell you the science of how a Terminator gene works, but it's like a car. I don't know how a car works, but I know how to drive one. So I'll tell you this. Terminator gene, at the moment, two companies are working, Monsanto and a Swiss company called Syngenta. They're working on the Terminator. And it means when the crop is ripe, the seeds are designed to commit suicide. The seeds are dead, okay? So then you buy the seed from the company. Of course, then you tie it into the chemicals that they sell. Chemical companies do not design plants that don't need chemicals. Let's get real, okay? Now, there's a man in America called Ralph Nader. You may have heard of Ralph Nader, a very active legal person. And when he heard about the Terminator gene, he challenged Monsanto. He said, this is dangerous. You're killing our seeds. And Monsanto said, don't worry, we've got a better one. Instead of the Terminator gene, we'll use the traitor gene. The traitor gene means when the crop's ripe, the seeds all commit suicide, but you save your seeds because they will sell you the hormone to bring the seed back to life. I've just found in this book here, Genetic Roulette, amazing information from CSIRO. It's hidden on page 57, but it looks like CSIRO in the mid-90s started to develop a genetically engineered pea. We're going to take over the world with peas. Then, in the end, they started to feed them to mice. The mice were getting very, very sick. To such a degree, some were developing things like asthma, all sorts of swellings and itches and what have you. But not only that, something very interesting happened. They found that once they fed the pea, genetically engineered pea, to the mouse, then the mouse became allergic to other foods. That it was none of the other mice, the mice that ate normal food or non-genetically engineered peas, they never had allergies to anything. But once they had eaten something that was GM, all of a sudden they started to get sick. The famous one in America called the Flavor Saver tomato. It was going to rock the world, yes. They made the Flavor Saver tomato, they fed it to rats. The rats would not eat it. They refused to eat it. So then they pumped the tomato into the rats' stomachs, and the rats got very, very ill. So they scrapped the Flavor Saver tomato. Australia. For something like 10 years, we've been bringing genetically engineered food in from America, unlabelled. Since it has been coming into Australia, people eat all sorts of genetically modified food from America. The ones we all know of are canola, soy, corn chips, those sorts of things. Since that's been happening, allergies have been going up. The extreme form of an allergy is anaphylaxis, when you have no protection whatsoever. And that is more dangerous than a snake bite or anything you can imagine. There is a spike in allergies since GM came into Australia. We should look at it and not have one man say, I have the right to say, go contaminate.
I'm Bob Phelps, I'm Director of Genethics. Genethics was formed in 1988 to do public education around the use of genetic manipulation technologies in cropping and food and all other uses as well, like human therapeutics, drug development and so on. Gene manipulation is a new technology, a radical technology, which in principle at least can be used to modify any living organism, and is being used to change everything from crop plants to microorganisms and indeed to human beings in ways that are designed to produce profits for companies, not social good. And so we need to look for sustainable systems and stop spending these huge, enormous amounts of money on things like gene manipulation technologies. For the new Agriculture Minister, Tony Burke, is headed off completely in the wrong direction. He's been captured already by the transnational agribusiness companies. Monsanto, the largest seed company in the world, and Bayer, the largest agrochemical company in the world, have got his ear, and they're headed off in the direction of saying, yes, we're going to continue these systems, we're going to make farms bigger, more industrialised, and dependent on gene manipulation technologies, chemicals, and other radical new technologies. The people of Australia need to speak up right now to make sure that we get on track for a sustainable farming and food future.